The earliest ecclesiastical foundation in Jarrow was begun by St. Bede Biscop in AD 681 and dedicated to St. Paul in AD 684. At the same time, 7-year-old Bede came to the monastery. St. Paul's covered a large area above the waters of the River Don, and besides the church, included small monastery buildings with accommodation for over 600 monks. It was here that Bede, the Mass priest of Jarrow, spent the whole of his life. Apart from his clerical duties, he shared in the labours of the fields and completed his extensive writings. Professor Lathan, in his work on Bede, best summarises our debt to our patron saint when he says, "Put off your shoes, ye who shall tread the ruined cloisters of the Abbey of Jarrow, or at least hush your voices and doff your caps, for the place on which you stand is holy ground. In all England, none holier." By the turn of the 19th century, the faithful of Jarrow, Hebburn and South Shields were only able to hear Mass by making a ferry journey across the Tyne to North Shields, where a Father Wurzik, who would travel on horseback from St. Andrews in Newcastle, would be their celebrant. Shortly after the opening of St. Bede's Church in South Shields in 1849 by a Father Singleton, a mission was begun in Jarrow by a Father Edmund Kelly. He said Mass in number 175 High Street for several years. His infectious enthusiasm resulted in the laying down of a foundation stone for a new church in High Street on the 30th of October, 1860. As building work developed, a Father George Meynell was transferred from Gateshead to work in conjunction with Father Kelly, and he was often seen working on the new building himself. The new St. Bede's Church was opened on December the 27th, 1861, although it was incomplete, lacking part of the roof and without windows. Father Meynell became the first resident priest in 1861 and managed the growth of the parish as its congregation reached 6,000. By 1883, numbers necessitated the addition of a new wing, the new end, and as a result, the altar had to be moved to its present position. And so began a rich tradition of priests, worship, and liturgical celebrations, as the parish community developed their faith experience and passed it on to the next generation.
There was Father McCleary, Father Maloney, Father Cronin, Father McElhannon. There was a Father Rocher, the first Father Rocher.
Father Saunders was there, or Father Arrowsmith, Harriet. But the priests were visiting all the time. There's that many going back and forward. Well, this Mass was 25 past 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12. And there was that many Catholics in Jarrow that got in a queue. One queue started off at the church and went towards the house. The other one started off at the other door and went towards the school. When the Mass come out, everybody else went in. And that's the way it went on. People used to think the old end is for the people on the riverside. The new end is for people Albert Road area, you know. There was always that little bit distinction. I don't know why, but it was. And when you were in the church, the left-hand side was the senior boys at the front. Then in the centre was the junior boys. Next to them was the junior girls. On the right-hand side, the pulpit side, that was the senior girls. And never the two can meet. Well, when he had his silver jubilee, all the school went down to South Shields and then down on the train and back again. All got an ice cream cornet or a sandwich or whatever there was. It was a great day on the beach. And also, when he became canon, he come out of the church at 11 o'clock Mass, come out of the presbytery. I'm going to show you, I am now a canon. And I've got to wear these. And he lifted his foot up and it was a buckled shoe and his new vestments. And he was quite proud of that.
Since the opening of the church in 1861, St. Bede's has relied greatly on the commitment and cooperation of its lay members, working with the clergy to ensure the smooth running of both liturgical and social aspects. A building next to the presbytery was taken over as the Working Men's Club, and this formed the focal point of social activities. The first ever elected committee brought together clergy and laity in the administration of what was to become a crucial element of parish life. Canon Blenkin and Father Harriet were joined by Godric Page, Charlie McConnell Sr., Alfie Pratt, Bill Dickinson, John Slowey, Raymond O'Connor, Gerald Woods, Jimmy Hyde, Felix Sullivan and Ambrose Joyce to form this influential committee.
I remember Father Saunders was the chaplain, and he ran the boys' club at St. Bede's in the institute next door to the church. He ran that, and he kept a tight grip on her.
You know, when you went to the club, there was always something going on there, because in the institute you had 3 floors. The ground floor was the calendar shop, the second floor was the table tennis and amenities, and the top floor was the snooker table. And they had a small kitchen, not as we know it now, just the ladies used to come in, make sandwiches and a cup of tea.
In the 1930s and the 1940s, there were many young Jarrow men whose development and formation were strongly rooted in St. Bede's Church. Sadly, most are no longer with us, but it is fascinating to retrospectively trace the achievements and often hardships they were to experience in later life.
Well, there's quite a few where Charlie Hyde always stood out for his height, and he was the one that had a dual passport, Irish and British. Charlie Murray, most of the altar boys, he knew them all. McNally, Reverend McNally, Martin Melia, Alfie Pratt, they were all there. Jimmy Barr.
Well, the St. Agnes Guild was opposite the St. Bede's Guild from 14 to 16 or 14 to 18. St. Agnes Guild 1 week, St. Bede's Guild the next week. And everything was so well organised in them days regarding them things, you know. And then when they got older, went to St. Patrick's Guild, and everything was kept in touch with regarding your religion in the church and that, you know. Which I found out it meant a lot to me.
Throughout its 150 years of history, education has played a crucial role in the development of both the church and its parishioners. A school for infants only was opened in Monkton Road, adjacent to the church, in 1865, and was then extended in 1870 to accommodate juniors also. East Jarrow School opened in 1872, initially for older boys and girls, and then from 1876 for boys only. In 1885, another school, Grand Street, opened firstly for infants and then later for senior girls. As a result of overcrowding in the early days of the 20th century, a new up-to-date junior school was opened by Bishop Collins in 1914 in Harold Street.
Our old school started off in Grand Street, and when they bombed Grand Street, we had to go down to Mountain Road, Chapel Road.
Let's see, what time I came from the infant school next to the church, and from there I went to Lord Jarrow School, but during the war.
Lord Jarrow School had a terrible reputation for being very, very strict. The headmaster was, well, some say he used to be sadistic, but I only got the cane off him once.
And from Lord Jarrow School, I was only there, I think, a fortnight. And from there we came to here. It was either Mac Peak or Ned Burke was the headmaster at the time. All crowd of 50 in a class, I think. And although the headmaster was the boss, but Hughie Cunningham seemed to be his minder. He slated him every week, every day.
The headmaster was very strict. And every dinner time and every morning, had to show your hands. And if they were dirty, you had to go and get them clean, you got the cane and all.
Oh, girls, I don't know. No, the girls were downstairs, and we were upstairs, you know. Oh, the girls, oh no. Oh, we separated in church. On the Mass on the Sunday, boys on the left, girls on the right. I just wonder where I got married.
An Act of Parliament after the First World War authorised the setting up of central schools, and as a result, Bellsfield was opened on May the 22nd, 1920. The new school was initially staffed by nuns of the Daughters of the Cross, and thus became known as the convent school. The school continued until the late 1950s, when St. Joseph's Grammar Technical School opened in Hebburn. As numbers in both the infant and senior girls' schools increased, yet another school was needed. The solution was the opening of Mayfield, the senior girls' school in Pine Street, on the 11th of June, 1928. The opening of a new infant school in Staple Road led to the demolition of the Monkton Road School in the 1960s, while at the same time Bellsfield became the senior boys' secondary school until it closed, following comprehensive reorganisation in 1976. Each year, the summer months brought a long-anticipated celebration in the grounds of Mayfield School, the annual garden fete. Priests, teachers, parents, pupils and parishioners gathered for an afternoon of fun. There were demonstrations of dancing and sports with competitive athletic events. The highlight was often a light-hearted exhibition of boxing. In 1935, the Prince's Trust was set up by the then Prince of Wales, later to become King George V. The aim of the trust was to support the welfare of the rising generation by providing more and better facilities for boys and girls aged 14 to 18. The first ever grant made by the Prince's Trust was the sum of £25 made to St. Bede's, Jarrow, so that needy children could be taken on holiday.
Oh, a great adventure. We really look forward to going.
Well, I would went to about 3 or 4 camps. I think I got the maximum. We went travelling Jennings's, Harry Jennings's lorry. Another one was Jimmy Mullaney, who had a business in Hebron, Jarrow, East Jarrow. And the lorries would let the wheels about that height, and had a big starting handle. You know, the starting handle was about this size. About an hour and a half or 2 hours, because it was a big bug in the castle about 2.5 miles long. I forget the name of the. Well, my first job when I went to the first camp was with a lad called Ulrich Jennings, and we put the flag up, the papal flag up on the tree. It was the march up to Rothbury. Big crowd we, you know. And there was one of the helpers, Jude Devlin, and I used to play the harmonica, so it was the march up. And then you used to play a bit football, a bit cricket. The Rothbury, it was supposed to be about a couple of miles, it was more about 4 miles.
And the afternoons we had walks, yes, and let's see, and the one thing, embargo was Rothbury. Don't go to Rothbury, you're not allowed in Rothbury, you know. And so that's out of bounds, Rothbury. It's Father Saunders, Rothbury's out of bounds, it's bad. Things like that. But I was getting ready for Rothbury, you know, and I didn't know the camera was on us, you know, and I said, whoever was taking the video at the time turned around, I saw them then, you know. But I noticed it was either Frank Sutherland or Father Saunders in the bushes taking notes, and I thought, I thought, I'm not going to Rothbury. So the main one I remember was the 1946 camp. Was really fantastic, that camp. The weather was just like today, it was fantastic.
In one sense, there were people who couldn't go because of their finances and other commitments. But those that did go, we really enjoyed it.
It was heaven, absolutely heaven.
And we all gathered outside the Institute, and we got loaded onto lorries with all our baggage.
Anyway, we started off from Chapel Road. We went in a wagon, and something that wouldn't happen today. The health and safety would be under today. We all crowded on a wagon, all the way to Rothbury. I think the only thing we got near was the health and safety was all told to sit down. So we all had to sit down.
Those that had cars went with the cars. That's Mr. Cunningham, Huey, and different ones. And if we ever went all the way to Rothbury, it was Blackburn Bridge.
We got there, and the head man, the head of the Awkward Squad at the time, was a Billy Tunnicliffe.
The Awkward Squad was a group of men when they required a job done at the church. Father MacDonald, Father Blanken. You say, would the Awkward Squad turn out please on Monday or Tuesday? We are going to do. And they all turned out. You had tradesmen, you had everything that you wanted. and they all got cracking, done what they had to do, and all left. And all they used to say was, for a bill in, but there was never a bill went in. And I would say there was more stuff come out of railroads and farmers' galvanising works for the church than anywhere else. When we got there, the tents were already up. McParland was the cook, and we had all the men help us, and all the boys.
And we had a canteen. It was another a square belt tent, you know, and we was, everything was in there, and it was wonderful. And then we all went up for breakfast. Mine about the cook, he did put a good army-style grub on for. Of course, you know, in 1946, we weren't used to instant fries or things like that, you know. Didn't have what we have now, but it was great, you know. We couldn't complain because we were frightened, because we mightn't have got any supper. You know, and we're all homesick at the time for the first couple of days, you know. We're dying for my mass to come on the Wednesday, so we could tell them, you know, and we had mass every morning, night prayers every night, but it was beautiful, looking back on it. The big crucifix out on the edge of the camp, you know, and then looking from the camp, from the bell tents, right way up on the hill, we had the papal flag. I always remember that flying, you know.
In the morning, you got up and got cleaned up, mass. Then you'd start off your breakfast. After that, sports were on. Football, cricket, walking around the local area. Them that were detailed for camp duties, they went to the farm and got the milk, which was about 1.5 miles away. They got the water for the cookhouse. And they were doing potatoes, carrots, cabbage, whatever. All the vegetables had to be done. Yes, the ladies, all the mothers come up on the Wednesday. A busload of them come up and they all brought food with them, and that was another day where we had a beano.
They had a proper bus service on, you know, and the buses were jam-packed with them all, and they all came up, and it was great. And of course, we heard somebody on the top of the big hill. The buses, we can see the bus about 3 miles away, and they're all like the jungle telegraph pole, where everybody run down to the road to meet one mass, you know. I think we'd never seen them for years.
And so we reflect on our journey. In 1861, the first Mass was celebrated on the 27th of December, with Father Kelly, Monsignor Eyre, and Father Meynell in attendance. The building was incomplete, with neither roof nor windows in place. 150 years later, with over 100 priests having served generations of families, the church roof has once again become the focus of attention. With the help of English Heritage, generous grants and donations, and the magnificent generosity of the parish community, the roof has been completely overhauled and should hopefully last for another 150 years.
So here we are back in St. Bede's Church, which finally has a new roof, both internal and external, and it looks really great. It's very good news for our community and the people of Jarrow, because we are now in a position to look forward to celebrating our 150th anniversary, which will take place on the 27th of December 2011. We already have a group of parishioners who are planning various events to recall that great occasion. We'll also be holding a parish mission to ensure that we continue to contribute to the life, the faith and the well-being of the community here in Jarrow.
And so may the parish continue to flourish, supporting generations to come, providing a focal point for Jarrow's worshipping community, and being a worthy testament to Bede's legacy.